We're going to transition into the coffee shop Q&A segment, which is the virtual mentorship and interview experience here on the Business Life and Coffee Show. And this episode, I want to double down a little bit more on some of my thoughts of what life will look like when we return to work, when we actually go to offices for the very first time, and what are some of the things that we'll need to be considering. Now, part of this is wanting to help prepare you for what is to come, but also it's, everybody wants to have that hot take where you look back a year, 6 months, and maybe even 2 to 5 years and say, hey, they said it first. And so this is my hot take segment of what I think life is going to look like in a few different areas. So the first thing I want to talk about when states open back up and what it'll look like to return to work and return to malls and things like that are, from a structural perspective, who are some of the people that we're going to be taking cues from in order to shape what life looks like moving forward. So it's not just going to be your boss, or if you're the CEO of a company or an entrepreneur, you're not going to be the only one who calls the shots. I think that we're going to really be paying attention to our medical community and what their expectations are for best practices for social distancing now that we are being more physically close. We're removing the barriers of physical distance and becoming closer. So I'm thinking that, we'll still need that 6 feet of separation. People will, if they're not your family, they're going to need to be walking around these bubbles of 6 feet of space. I think that that's going to mean, at checkout lines, the lines are going to be longer and they're going to wrap around the building, because you're going to go from where previously you could have maybe 5 or 10 people in a small line, but now you're going to have 5 to 10 people times 6 feet. So you're going to have a 60-foot line, a 30-foot line of people, and that might wrap around a store, that might go outside of a store. Stores may say, I don't want the hassle, so no more than 5 people at a time in our store, 10 people at a time in our store max. We're going to see a lot of rules with regard to the medical community about how to safely deal with people that are in your orbit, so to speak. What is that going to look like for restaurants and bars? Restaurants and bars, I really think that there's going to be an empty chair next to everybody. If you go up to the bar, you're going to sit in your spot, but there's going to be an empty seat next to you, because the days of being in close proximity is going to be over. Now, I should caveat that with saying, I think that if you have a mask on, or if you have some kind of face shield, or whatever the innovative community comes up with to reduce the spread of COVID, I think you'll be able to keep people all together and have more gathering. But there still needs to be those barriers in place. Even as I'm talking now, I'm seeing like little spit bubbles fly out here and there. It's probably TMI. But, if I was close to somebody and if I was COVID positive, boom, you just got a bubble. So we're going to think about that. I think that outdoor dining is going to be safer than indoor dining, simply because you're going to have more opportunity for air to circulate away from people as opposed to being on top of people. That very nature of just having an opportunity to, speak into the open atmosphere as opposed to in a small crowded booth or a small crowded table, that's going to make for safer dining. What else? Churches, religious institutions. I really do believe that churches are going to need to take out those pews and replace them with seats. Replace them with chairs. And that might look like one seat and then a 6-foot bubble around those seats. Or maybe churches are going to look strange for a while and say, we'd rather have our people together, but everyone is going to have a mask when they come in. I think that is going to be the only way for churches and religious institutions that gather. That's going to be the only way to get close, is if everybody either comes with their own mask or they are given one at the door. In addition to that, the way that we move in and out of lobbies in public settings, especially at churches where we like to gather and talk to people and celebrate, the service that we had, I think that's going to look different. I think that, especially for the summer, that lobby experience is going to be pushed outside into the parking lots, into the open spaces, because even the governor of Maryland is saying that outdoor is safer than indoor. So churches, you are going to experience congregating outside as opposed to inside the lobby or inside classrooms and things of that nature. Maybe Sunday school will be outside. Who knows? Weather permitting and things of that nature, but it's going to be safer outside than inside. Next, let's get into corporate buildings and co-working spaces. My favorite place to hang out. I think that co-working spaces are not dead. There will be no industry that is fundamentally dead from COVID. I think that most industries are going to adapt and respond and innovate. And so the co-working space, you may have the open air location. However, you will need to have 6 feet of distance. So that may be reevaluating the tables and chairs that you have and making sure that they're at least 6 feet wide and at least 3 feet deep, so that you can stack, a 3 foot deep desk up against another 3 foot deep desk, so that you manage to have this whole social distancing thing nailed. I think that conference rooms are going to be treated differently. And the reason why I say this is because, of course, there is going to be the medical community who says that things are going to have to change. But there's also like fire marshals and people who are responsible for building code. There are going to be new guidelines that dictate how close we can gather, how close we can sit, what our conference rooms need to look like, what public spaces need to look like. There's going to be all this change that comes with being in the corporate setting. I also think that we're going to have employees go in shifts. So you may have a group of employees go into the office 1 week at a time, 2 weeks at a time, and then you rotate out the other group that goes into the office. That is going to be a way to combat the need for more physical space without having the ability to knock down a wall or build more space or get more footprint in a building, because that's going to be costly too. So I think businesses are going to need to really evaluate the shift model, the rotation model, and not have everyone rush back to work so soon. I think Zoom conferences are just going to be a preferred way of life now, or if not preferred, at least a mandatory requirement from a safety perspective, the video conferencing. And I think that there will be less people in office, at least for the next 6 months to a year, maybe even 18 months. I don't foresee conferences, sporting events, concerts, festivals. They will not look remotely close to what they did before, at least for the next 18 months. And so that is going to require businesses and conference planners to adapt. I think we're going to see more virtual summits, more virtual experiences, a higher degree of interactivity, maybe even augmented reality or virtual reality. You put on a headset and you feel like you're there. You put on a headset and you hear the speaker, you see the speaker. I'd be excited to see what virtual reality looks like in the age of coronavirus. I know even now that there's actually like a VR program for NCAA sports, NCAA basketball, where you can put the headset on and it's like you're courtside. So I would expect to see more virtual reality in the time where we can't all physically be together, but we want to share experiences. And that's going to be super helpful for sporting events where you're not going to have as many crowds, and you may not have any crowds for the next time being. So those are my takes on what life looks like when we reopen. And I'd love to hear from you. Did I miss something? Do you have a really hot take that you want to say? DM me, message me, send me a chat. I love to hear your hot takes, because we're going to open up soon and it's going to look crazy. And we want to make sure that we're prepared for what life is like. So that is this episode of the Business Life and Coffee Show. I hope that you gained something from it, whether it's the All-In Challenge, what McDonald's is doing, what it's going to look like adjusting back to work. And I thank you for being a part of this episode. I look forward to speaking with you and connecting with you again next week. See you later.